I'd like to call this meeting, the October meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Education, to order this evening. I'd like to welcome each of you here this evening to our meeting. First item is I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Long.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hill. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. For our devotional reading this evening, the devotional this evening is entitled Stairs of Opportunity. Stairs of opportunity. Just before you reach them, you have to pass through a closed gate that is marked push. No pull, all push. Then you will enter a path of many stones, which will bruise your feet or be stepping stones depending on you. It is a one-way passage marked go. No opportunities are behind. They're all ahead. When you arrive, be not deceived into thinking opportunities are not there just because they are in the form of struggle, hard work, sweat, and tears. Don't wait for fortune to knock at your door. The stairs are there. Just start climbing. And this poem sums it up well. The stairs of opportunity are sometimes hard to climb, and that can only be well done by one step at a time. But he who would go to the top ne'er sits down and despairs. Instead of staring up the steps, he just steps up the stairs. Precious opportunities come to all. The trouble is, many people don't recognize them when they see them. Opportunity seldom comes later. We must live with the fact that every opportunity implies an obligation. When chance smiles, don't frown, grab it. This time we will have our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States. We are very pleased to have two students from Mount Gate Elementary with us this evening. Luke McIntyre, and is Madison Henderson here?
She is not.
Okay, thank you. Everyone will please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Luke? Good job. Come here, man. Have your certificate for appreciation for your being with us this evening. Your parents here, if they would, please stand. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Luke.
Good job, Luke.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a hearing on the consolidation of East and West Montgomery High School. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ellis and Bill Minch.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Members of the board, as you're aware, back in the early summer, we had a meeting with the county commissioners where we had a public hearing to talk about the application for the USDA loan, and the board took a vote to make a request to move forward with that process. There's also in 115C, which is the school law book that's about yay thick, there's also a passage in there that says that we have to have a specific hearing if we're going to consolidate schools, and that's the purpose of this hearing here today. First part of it is to present our need. So if you would pull up that enclosure. But basically, right now we don't know exactly what the date will be. Of course, we're hopeful that it will be August of 2019 when we would get a substantial completion for the high school project. But there is a possibility that it could be December of 2019. We don't want to rush the project and get a bad product, so we're going to work with the architects who have done a great job and work with our construction folks to make sure that we get the top quality educational facility that our students deserve. As you think about the history, real quick, We started this work back in 2011. Mr. Hill was on the committee, Mr. Blake. It involved the county commissioners. But we started what was called the Joint Facilities Task Force 6 years ago. So this has been an ongoing process. And the basic summary of that Joint Facilities Task Force report is that something had to be done for our high schools effective as soon as possible. It was just the absolute need was there, and I can tell you 6 years later, that need is still there. We come up with an initial 2-school renovation plan because we just didn't think we were going to have the money to do a single high school. So basically, we come up with the 2-school plan, which is basically putting a Band-Aid on an open wound. And then it come up about the possibility of doing the USDA funding. I know Matthew Woodard is here with the county, and Jim Matheny and Jackie Morris. I cannot say enough about the county commissioners and the county and the support that they have shown throughout this opportunity in helping us get to where we are right now. We still got a long way to go, but the county commissioners are definitely to be commended, and the county administration for the great job that they have done. They always tell us they wish they could do more, they wish they could do more. And I always promise them I'm never going to beat them over the head, because I know that they have supported us and supported us and supported us. And we're eternally thankful for that. We came through with that 1-school plan with the USDA funding in a public hearing held at the county earlier in 2017. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to satisfy the requirements of North Carolina General Statute 115C72. This is from the facility study that was conducted back in 2011-2012 school year. Once again, these facilities conditions have not changed. If we needed something emergency done, a boiler go out or a chiller need to go out, I mean, we have done the basic necessities to keep those schools kind of puttering along. But we haven't had a great deal of expenditures on them, just frankly because we wanted to wait and see what we were going to be able to do. You see this everywhere, conduit. You can go on to the next one. That is at both schools. You can see there the conduit and the piping. Everything about our schools has had to retrofit 21st century technology to a 1961 building. And I can tell you from surveys that we've done with parents, that was one of the big things that we heard. We surveyed parents, why do you choose charter schools? And I remember one of those comments being, have you seen those buildings? That's why. They're dark, they're dank, it's a safety issue everywhere you look. Keep going. You got wires running everywhere along the ceiling. Wherever we could tuck a wire, we've had to tuck a wire. Like I said, it's worked, but from a purely production standpoint, it's not good. I mean, you can see some of those wires there that's been there for a long time, starting to wear and just dirty. There's no way to keep those buildings clean. More examples. Once again, this is at West and East Montgomery. Both schools are this way. Okay, keep going. Just more examples. No matter everywhere you look, you've got those pipes. I don't know what that is hanging down from there. I'm glad it appears to be some type of string next to an electrical junction box. I'm glad the fire marshal didn't see it. But I mean, so I mean, you've got stuff like that, all over the place. Once again, it kind of gets redundant here. This was Mr. Mingin's pictures. He did a great job of it. There's some type of electrical junction or something with the tape on it.
That's chiller line.
Chiller line with
yes.
the tape hanging off of it. So more.
I think Mr. Mingen and his crew done an outstanding job.
Just to keep it up and going.
Yeah.
And here's what we really tried to focus on, and we talked about incessantly 5 or 6 years ago. It was hard to do a STEM curriculum. It was hard to do something with engineering. It was hard to do something with a science and technical focus just because our lab facilities You know, they were state of the art in 1961. The bad thing is, at the time, it was 2011, and now it's 2017. And you see there the condition of the lab workspace. There's the old gas. Once again, you can see the tables. Basically, corrosive material over time has kind of wiped them out. There's your old vent hood, 1960 style. Once again, very, very out of date. More, lab space. You can see just old. Not only from the physical facility standpoint, the good thing about being able to outfit a new building is that some of that money is also going to be outfitting, new furniture, new lab equipment. So we're very, very excited about that. So when we say that we're going to have a state-of-the-art STEM facility, a state-of-the-art facility to teach engineering and advanced manufacturing, that's going to be true. In fact, the MCC on Wednesday is going to have their first advanced manufacturing day. It's going to be in partnership with the schools. I know the county is going to be there. Governor Rory Cooper is going to be there on Wednesday. So we're very excited to get the word out about the great partnerships that we have and what we're going to be able to accomplish with our new facilities, thanks to the county and the USDA funding. Just more. I mean, you can see the tabletop there, totally worn down. Once again, the flooring. That's one of the frustrating things. It's just hard to keep clean. You can see this was the old tile, and you see the breakage there. I think our custodians have done the best they could. I think Bill and his staff has done the best they could. But after a certain point, it just becomes almost cost prohibitive to keep these facilities up. This is my personal favorite. The wall had started separating in the math wing. The wall had separated from the floor to such a degree you could fit one of those pins in there, almost an inch wide. That was basically my response to Bill is make sure that you keep an eye on it so that we don't have it collapsing. And thankfully that's not happened, but just you can just see how just from a facility standpoint, over time things happen. And there's another view of that almost 1 inch wide gap between the wall and the floor. Standard bathroom. This is one of the ones over at East Montgomery. You can see, over time flooring. Do you spend the money that it takes to repair that flooring? When you have pressing needs all over the county. A beautiful view of a retrofit bathroom. You can see at the time that it was built in 1961, I guess they didn't worry about kids looking over and seeing what another kid was doing in there, because it used to just be the height of the wall. And after some concerns there, it looks like we raised it where other kids would have to at least put forth some effort to look in on their classmates. Standard library. Once again, you can look up. Whenever you look up, you see issues. And then with the floor, and when you look down, you see issues. One of my favorites, they didn't think about having TVs in classrooms in the 1960s, so everything, once again, retrofit. And there you can see what it looks like when you retrofit a TV without the proper wiring in the ceilings and in the walls. When we went and put in the boards, the boards were a great thing, but unfortunately, obviously because we had drop ceilings here, we were able to fit it in. At the schools where they didn't have the drop ceilings, it was either covered up by installing a drop ceiling at thousands upon thousands of dollars, or just let the cords hang, and you can see what the answer was. You can see that back there, DNA. That's once again a standard science classroom. Just another long version of that same shot. my personal favorite because they don't have enough plug-ins in the classroom space. They've got that hanging from the wall. You know, extension cords dangling from the ceiling for the kids to plug into their microscopes, etc. Once again, when we close those schools, I personally want to sell the conduit because there's several $1,000s worth of scrap metal there, if not more so. But you know, that just kind of gives you a basic foundation of what the facilities committee saw. Not only looked over East Montgomery and West Montgomery, we've traveled, you know, all over this state. We looked at schools that have been basically remodeled. We looked at brand new schools. You know, we looked at schools that, you know, even extended. You know, lots of times people, they hear you know, $69–70 million. It's like, wow. I mean, we saw a school that was even more than that in Gaston County. You know, also saw a contract where West Montgomery was built in 1961, and that contract was $358,000. So that $70 million 20 years from now is going to be $200 million. So, you know, at some point we have to make a decision. We can't keep going down the road that we are. So, you know, basically, I don't think anyone signed up specifically to speak. If anyone in the public would like to speak or have their say at the hearing, I would encourage the board to invite them to do so. Then ultimately, I would recommend a vote to consolidate East and West Montgomery High School, including the closure of those school facilities upon the completion and occupancy of Montgomery Central High School. Any questions, comments?
Is there anyone here that would like to address the board? If not, the recommendation is for the consolidation of East and West Montgomery High School to some point to be closed upon the opening of the new Central High School. Do we hear a motion for approval? A motion, Mr. Dozier. Second on Ms. Long. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, the public comment period is since no one has signed up to address the board this evening, the public comment period is closed. Moving on to recognitions this time, I'll call on Dr. Ellis.
Come back up here, should I? We are proud to recognize our employees of the month for the month of October, and I'll ask Ms. Sloan Browning to join me up here. The employees of the month this month are from Mount Gilead Elementary, and we'll start with the classified employees. Employee of the month, if Ms. Kathy Horn would also join us up here. I think Ms. Sloan would like to brag on her a little bit.
Yes, Kathy Horn has been just a tremendous asset to the students at Mount Gilead Elementary. She has worked there for many, many years.
Her 20th year.
Her 20th year at Mount Gilead, and we are very proud of her. Each and every day she just goes above and beyond every day to not only work with the students in her classroom, but all of our students. So we are very proud of Ms. Horn for this wonderful recognition. Congratulations, Ms. Horn.
I know. I will take a picture.
Go ahead.
How many people say
taking.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Okay, and unfortunately, Ms. Sarah Green, will go ahead and recognize her. Ms. Sarah Green was the certified employee of the month, and she wasn't able to be here today with us. But Sloan will make sure to give her that, and we appreciate her as well. Not that you need to go anywhere, Ms. Browning. We're also recognizing tonight our principal of the year. We're proud to recognize Ms. Sloan Browning. She's the principal at Mount Gilead Elementary. This is voted on by her peers. Ms. Browning just joined us last year, so she had a very successful first year as the principal at Mount Gilead. And one of the things that we told her, historically, Mount Gilead had been one of the schools that was low performing, and they worked hard the previous year to come out from that ranking. They knew that they were better than that. And this past year, they actually exceeded growth again. They were one of 2 schools in Montgomery County that exceeded growth. So not only did she come in and make the school even better than it was, she's going to continue making it even better year after year. And obviously, she was recognized for her hard work by her peers. So we are pleased to announce Ms. Sloan Browning as Montgomery County Schools Principal of the Year.
Congratulations.
Yes.
And she is also recently engaged, and I believe her fiance is here as well.
Good job.
Thank you.
And the next recognition, Mr. Thompson's been here before, just to say hello. We've not officially given him his reward for developing our logo, and we wanted to give him that tonight. If Mr. Thompson would come forward, please. Let me make sure I got this right. 100. Okay. But ultimately, we put a check reward, I say a cash reward, of $100 to Mr. Thompson for his winning logo design. Thank you very much. And we also put this was this our students that did this, and our students developed this plaque that says presented to Brent Thompson. Once again, it shows his winning logo on it for the winning logo design for Montgomery Central and the early college. But the kids did this with their 3D printing software and made that with their 3D printer. And you can see the etch design. They do a real good job with that, and we wanted to make sure that Brent was properly recognized. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
One more picture.
Thank you, Brent.
And I never did ask you about how long because you spent, I know, a bunch of hours putting that together, so I've never asked you.
It was days. I don't know how many hours. I was back and forth, but it was worth it. So.
Absolutely.
Glad to help.
Yeah.
Thank
We really
you so
appreciate it.
much.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you all.
Absolutely. And next we have a special presentation for the Golden Leafs Foundation. I'll ask Jeff James to come forward and introduce Mr. Soul.
Well, Golden Leaf, this is actually the second grant that we received from Golden Leaf, and we run across these guys when we done the I-3 grant, and they were nice enough to call us up and ask if we need a match. And actually the match was about $475,000, but Mark and Dan said, no, we can't really quite do that much, but we'll go in for about $225,000 to help a match for I-3 grant. So they've been a great partner. They do a lot of things across the state of North Carolina, and Mark's actually been good to help us in the initiative we've done here with digital learning, because these guys have a lot of experience in their pocket. They've seen it done the right way, the wrong way across the state. So the first thing Mark sat down and done was give me a list of 10 things to do and not do in your new grant. So he's definitely been a great partner, and so is Golden Leaf. Appreciate all they've done for our school district, and I think they've been instrumental in helping us push digital learning in this district. And actually, we added to our strategic plan because of some of the work digital learning goal for part of our new strategic plan. So that work has been accomplished through these guys supporting us and helping us improve education here in our county. They do it across the state, but we're proud of what they've done for Montgomery County.
Great. So on behalf of the Golden Leaf Foundation, I'm pleased to be here and representing the board of directors to make a presentation of another $105,500 to support professional development for your teachers and administrators to really effectively implement digital learning across the district. This is important to us. We've been at this work since 2007, and we feel it's very important to give every kid in rural communities the same access to information and opportunities that kids have in metropolitan and urban growing areas. So with that, we're pleased to be a partner with you. We don't just hand off a check, as Jeff can tell you. We're here working with you and bring a group from NC State University, the Friday Institute, along with us, and some additional support to provide some coaching with experienced educators that have been at this and seen it work very effectively in districts. So congratulations, and we're happy to support you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Sounds short.
Could have bet $5 on a student trip.
I'll be in the new Hobbit movie when it comes out.
Yeah, they'll run down and put the check and try to put this through the window, right?
I'll be back. I'm going to the bank.
All right.
I know you get 1,000 of these with all the work that you do, not only with school stuff, just all across the state. The Golden Leaf Foundation, the work that you've done, I know you get a bunch of these, but we wanted to present you with a certificate of our appreciation as well for all the work that you've done with us. We wouldn't be where we are today without you and your expertise, and we thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis.
Thank you. What did you want
All right, thank you,
Mark.
Mark. Thank you.
Good talk to you.
The last recognition we have is our growth banners. I'm going to call everybody up here so that we can recognize them. I'm not going to have them unfurl them in here, but we'll get a group picture in here with them rolled up, and then I'm going to ask the principals to go outside and we'll do it with the rolled out picture out there. But these are our growth banners. We have 9 schools on the standard growth and accountability model for the state of North Carolina, and 8 of our schools either met or exceeded growth. So basically 89%. We're very proud of that, and we want to keep that momentum going. With that said, I'm going to introduce them one at a time to come up. Ms. Sloan Brown in Mount Gilead Elementary exceeded growth. East Middle School met growth. Della Ingram. East Montgomery High School exceeded growth. Tim Addis. Star Elementary, Miss Jennifer Beck, met growth. Green Ridge, met growth, Craig Wright. Gander Elementary, met growth, Roy Brown. Bay Street Elementary, Teresa Doe. And lastly, West Montgomery High School, Benji Brown, met growth. You know, this is really a celebration of the teachers and their hard work at those schools. You know, a lot of our principals are new this year, and they know the expectations, and they're willing and ready to take on the many challenges that we face. But I feel really good about this crew. We've got a couple principals who aren't up here for whatever reason. You know, Troy, they're leaving to Page Street. MLA's on an alternative model, and early college is brand new. So, you know, these guys are doing a great job. I feel real good about the leadership in our schools, and I know they're going to take this back to their teachers and their staffs, and let them know how proud we are. So thank you all.
Good job.
Good job. It's going to be real fun to go outside after our call. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good job.
The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted? Motion Mr. Blake, second Mr. Dozier. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So moving on to Roman numeral 1. This time we're going to have an audit report for the past school year, and I'm going to call on Dale Smith at this time.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Ellis. Did everyone get a copy of the audit report?
We did.
All right, good. We won't go through all of the report. I just wanted to point out a few pages. Pages 1 and 2 are the financial statement opinion letter, which is a clean, unmodified opinion. And that basically means that we feel as though all of the amounts that are in the report are reliable and free from any material misstatements. Everyone found it? Okay. All right, and on page, starting on page 56, or 46 actually, is the first of 3 letters that we issued that pertain to the compliance testing that we're required to do. And the compliance audit primarily relates to the state and federal funding that the district receives. And all 3 of these letters are also clean, unmodified reports, and that's exactly what the district wants to receive. And there's a short summary of these letters on pages 52 and 53. And basically these letters let you know that we didn't have any improper use of grant funds, and that all of the testing that we did indicated that the monies were being expended properly and in accordance with the budgets that were adopted by the Board of Education. Any questions on those letters? All right, let's go to page 12 and we'll look at the district's fund balance as of June 30th, 2017. And page 12 is the balance sheet of the district's governmental funds. This basically includes everything except the district's child nutrition program. And we'll be focusing on the first column, and up at the top you can see the district had total assets at June 30th, $3,684,156, and that was primarily composed of cash and cash equivalents, $3,511,476. And there in the middle of the page, the district had total liabilities of $77,614. And total assets less total liabilities equals fund balance at June 30th, 2017, which is the next to last number that you see there in that first column of $3,606,542. And your fund balance is composed of the 4 numbers above. You've got fund balance that's non-spendable for inventories, Stabilization by state statute is the receivables the district had at June 30th. And y'all have budgeted $879,000 to balance your fiscal year 17-18 budget. And that leaves the district with an unassigned fund balance of $2,554,862. Now, your fund balance decreased by about $19,000 last year, and that compares to about a $34,000 decrease in the previous year. And both of those are very small amounts considering the size of the district's budget. And I think the district does a very good job of maintaining a balanced budget and not spending more than it receives and having to use very little fund balance each year. And that's not easy to do with the ever-increasing costs of health care, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and retirement expense as well. So I think y'all are doing a great job as far as that goes. Anyone have any questions on this page? All right, let's go over to page 20 and we'll look at the school food service program. And page 20 shows the revenues and the expenses of the school food service program for the year. And the bottom number you see on that page is net position at end of the year. Kind of the same thing as fund balance, $835,769. And two numbers above that, you've got a change in net position, which is kind of like a net income or a net loss for the year. And the program had a loss of $49,718 for the year. And that compares to the previous year, it had a profit of $25,980. So it's about a $75,000 change. And the biggest factor contributing to that is that the district charged an additional $50,000 of indirect costs to the school food service program last year. I think they charged $100,000 in the year ended June 30, 2017, compared to $50,000 in the year ended 2016. And the program is doing very well, has a very strong fund balance, very good cash reserves. Cash actually went up last year, even though it shows a loss. They've got depreciation, which is basically a non-cash expenditure of about $40,000. So you got some items like that factor into this. But again, overall, the program is doing very well and operating very soundly. Does anyone have any questions about the child nutrition program? All right, that's pretty much all I had planned to cover. Again, overall, the audit went very well. We're very happy with what we saw. And
Dale, you still do the individual audits of the respective schools.
we sure do. Yeah, we go through those and we send Mitch a detailed listing of all the individual items that we find. Anything significant, we would report to the board. We normally just send Mitch a listing of just small things, but things that he can use to help train the bookkeepers and principals on. But
overall, you don't see anything of being great concern.
No, nothing of great concern.
Anyone have any questions of Dan?
That's Mitch Taylor.
Thank you, Dusty.
Thank you.
Dale, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Same here.
This time, we're going to be fortunate to have a presentation from Mount Gate Elementary, on Tom Brown and Christy McIntyre.
Good evening, Chairman DeBerry, members of the board, Dr. Ellis. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity this evening to show off some of the outstanding science instruction that's going on at Mount Gilead Elementary School. With me this evening, I have Christy McIntyre, who I have to brag on for just a moment. I have never in my years seen someone so passionate about science and teaching science to students as Ms. McIntyre does, and I'm very proud of her. Each and every single day, she really, really, really works hard, and those kids know their science. With her this evening happens to be her son, Luke McIntyre, and he's going to help her out this evening.
We actually had a couple more. One of the other students that was supposed to come was injured in his football game Saturday, so he couldn't make it. I'm going to go ahead and let you start, Luke.
Hi, my name is Luke McIntyre. We have come here tonight to show you a little bit of what goes on in our 5th grade science class at Mount Gilead Elementary. With the help of Mrs. Beasley, we have prepared this PowerPoint presentation to give you a little glimpse into the fun and exciting things we do.
And he didn't just have to say that because I'm small. Okay, first off, Ms. Beasley made me put this in here, the 5th grade science scores in previous years. And we are fortunate that we do have great scores at Mount Gilead, and I believe it's because I believe in the students. I don't think it's my teaching, it's because I believe in them, and I let them know that they can do it. If you come into our classroom, you need to come in the first thing when we start our lessons, because we sing. Every unit that we do, we have a song, and we sing, and I truly believe that it helps the kids remember those key important things that they need to know. Especially if they're, and I tell them, I said, if you're doing that EOG and you're just stuck, think of the songs. And I truly think that helps. And we have a little glance here. I hope the sound is on.
Water paper rolling up for the night, take fire, how you do it? How you do it? How you see it? Storm clouds, storm clouds, storm clouds. Water paper rolling up for the night, take fire, how you do it? How you do it? How you see it? Storm clouds, storm clouds, storm.
And they are allowed to move and dance as they need to. Uh-oh, something happened. Here we go. Okay, they're allowed with the singing. They can move, they can dance, as long as they're singing those words. Another thing that I do, the students are the facilitators in my classroom. They do a lot of the teaching and leading in their learning. And we do projects, and they work with teammates or they work individual. This project, or the pictures are from last year, and the students do a weather project where they have to choose a place in the United States, but it cannot be in North Carolina. And they have to also choose a place out of the country. And we research the weather for 5 days. They are responsible for their places. As a class, we research Mount Gilead. And they have to come together and compare the places they researched to the weather and climate in Mount Gilead. And they have to understand the difference. And they present it to the class. And we just started that with this class this time, so they're really excited. Another activity that we do is a balloon racer project. The students have to, and these are from last year as well, the students have to create a balloon racer that is propelled by a balloon. And that goes along with Newton's laws of motion. They cannot use anything from a toy car. Anything that they use as wheels cannot be something that was meant to be a wheel. And here is a video. This student that you're going to see in the video, his balloon racer would not move the day that he brought it in. So he had to do a little tweaking, and we were very excited.
Oh, that really was moving today. Look at that. Hey, Drill, I'll put you in.
He was, as I say, very excited that it moved. There we go. We also take 2 educational field trips each year. The first one you'll see is a picture of Fort Fisher. We go to Fort Fisher, and it is so great for the kids because we study ecosystems. And a lot of these kids have never been to the beach. They don't understand the difference between salt water, fresh water, brackish water, what an estuary is, what salt marshes is. And so that kind of reinforces their learning there. We also go to Camp Caraway. and take part in their ACORN program there. And what they do is they take the science concepts and they create different activities for the students. The students learn about forces in motion, weather, ecosystems. They do this cute thing where they have I shouldn't say cute, it's just really neat. They have a swing, and the kids actually have to figure out how much force they need to make the students that sit on it go a certain distance. And they have to calculate it, they make predictions. They also do an activity there where they get to zip line. They did climbing on the rock wall. They do a basketball game where they learn how clouds fill up with water. So all of that reinforces the curriculum that we're learning. And we usually go in the spring, and it's great for review. Technology is the basis for learning in my classroom. I use technology on a daily basis. And in this picture here, you'll see the students. On the one on the far right there, that student is actually looking up the hurricane. I tell everybody I know hurricanes are awful, 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 but they're wonderful for my science class. It has been so great because when they come, the kids are excited. It gets them into the weather. They come in the classroom, and that's one of the first things. Can we look up and track where Irma is? So right now we know the next one after Maria is named what? Don't remember? I don't remember either. But anyway, I was hoping you would remember. But that's what we do. The one in the middle, the student was inserting pictures into a PowerPoint. They do PowerPoint, Sway. I could list all the things we do. Quizlet, quizzes, Jeopardy. But that is the basis for our learning. And the kids do a lot of research with that technology. This is last year, and we're going to do it again this year. The North Carolina School of Science and Mathematics does an interactive video conferencing where they're on the screen talking to the kids, and they can see us and we can see them. And they do a STEM activity with the students. And this one was on forces in motion, and it's kind of like the balloon racer. They had to use lifesavers, straws, cardstock paper, and create a car that would go a certain distance if they were to blow on it. And they had to figure out how to maneuver it to make it work. And then we have a science fair every year. And the students, I encourage them not to do a collection, not to do a volcano, because I want them learning. And I want them to choose something they're interested in and have a question about it. And they have to go through and figure out. I think one student did something about gummy bears. This one was with bubbles. So they find something they're interested in, have a question about it, and then they have to decide, okay, their hypothesis. If their hypothesis was wrong, they know that that's a good thing because they learned through that. Then we have the last thing, we have John Ahrens, who is meteorologist for WSOC. He comes after we've done a unit on weather, and it's a great review. He talks to the kids and gets them active. One thing I failed to mention that is new this year is STEM Scope, and I'm so excited to dig into that because when I've looked into the STEM Scope and started using it, I found a lot of the tools that I was already doing in my classroom is all built into this one program. And it's very hands-on for the students. It even includes reading selections for them because it's great to incorporate that reading and science because they go hand in hand. And that's a little glimpse into our classroom.
Any questions? Good job. Very good presentation.
I think you get the kids excited, that gets them excited about learning science. I think that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This time I'm going to call on Dr. Ellis to talk about the strategic plan 2020.
Yes, I have you a cover letter there. I'll ask for approval at the end. If you'll look at the first sheet after the cover letter, it presents our proposed vision, mission, and core values. And once again, we talked about these at our end of the year review back in August. The proposed vision is Montgomery County Schools will graduate life-ready, globally competitive students who are leaders in their community, who value diversity, and who are college and career ready. When we presented that to the staff and the community at large, we have an 84.2% agreement with that vision. I won't go through here and read all these because we've already talked about them. I just want to point out that, we did make a couple of changes that the board had wanted. We wanted to define stakeholders, so in the mission we changed that to with all members of our community. You can see 87% of those who took the survey agreed with that one. Our core values: high expectations, high ethical standards, student-centered, continuous improvement, data-driven, inclusive practices. 90.7% was in agreement with that. Under globally competitive students, you can see the percentages for cohort graduation rate: 84.9% in agreement. Career and college ready proficiency: 85.8% in agreement. Ready expected growth: 82.1%. And composite achievement gap: 88.4%. So all of these were really over 80%, which is the threshold you want to reach. Under 21st century professionals, teacher attendance was 85% in agreement. Beginning teacher retention: 83%. Ethical violations: 85.8%. Once again, we changed the definition of an ethical violation to something that leads to employee dismissal. So if you have a minor issue that leads to a suspension, but the person maintains employment, that will not be considered an ethical violation moving forward. Out of school suspension, that one came close, 81.9%. And what I've tried to explain to teachers is that we put the reduction of out-of-school suspension in there. That doesn't mean that you don't suspend students when they do something wrong. That means you've got to address it before the kids do something wrong. So we want to make sure that we're working with our teachers to understand that if a kid gets in a fight, they're still going to be suspended. We want to get to them before they get to the fight so that it doesn't happen. Teen pregnancy rate, that was really the only one that did not reach the 80% threshold, 76.4%. And that's the reason that I suggest that we just move that. It'll still be an operational goal. It'll still be a PDSA that Dr. LeGrand and her team works on. It just won't be something that we report out on strategically. Grants, 89.6. There's the digital instruction goal that Dr. James talked about, 84.8% in agreement with that. That we've maintained adequate fund balance under 21st century systems, 88.7%. So there's at least 12% that don't even want us to have enough money to operate. So that just goes you, some people are just going to disagree with it no matter what you say. Adequate facilities, 88.7%. So they're 12%. I think it's that same 12% that pretty much voted disagree on everything.
But you think that in some cases they didn't know what adequate fund balance was?
No.
Is that possible?
No, but
was this all staff?
This was teachers, and we put it out on Facebook and sent it home. So I mean,
that could be part of the problem. I mean, that could be part of it.
And I will tell you that, like digital instruction, we got some of that feedback. What does the SAMR model mean? And we knew that. But I really think, like I said, for whatever reason, we had some that we disagree with. Adequate technology, 85.9%. But once again, when you go through and look at that, they all met the 80% threshold anyway, which is 4 out of 5 people agreeing, which is ultimately what we want. So my recommendation would be to approve the strategic plan and move the pregnancy goal to an operational PDSA and the rest being the strategic plan.
Do you think the response from the pregnancy was that people they didn't think that could be achieved, or I mean, what, too low, or too low, or?
Yeah. No, I think it was, why, one comment we got, why is the school worried about this? Another one was, this isn't always within the school's control. So I mean, that when you looked at the comments, I didn't provide the comments because you get the standard, I hate Miss Smith at XYZ Elementary. I mean, you get that kind of stuff. But the main thing there was that they just didn't see the connection, and really outside of our control.
The makeup of this, what percentage is it faculty, what percentage of
Could you
community?
tell?
We can't really tell, but I would say the vast majority of it would have been faculty. And once again, that's just me saying that, because we can't really tell, it comes in anonymously.
Any questions?
Need a motion to accept.
I do.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Dozier, to approve the strategic plan. Second by Ms. Long. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Moving on to Roman numeral 3. This time we're fortunate to have Gina Smith with us from First Health. She's going to come and give us an update this time on the health center.
Good afternoon, and it's always my pleasure to be able to come before the board to talk about what we've achieved in the past year and what's kind of going on this year so far. So thank you for having me. We'll move along. This is kind of our statistics from last school year. This is for students 10 to 19. This is what we report to the state, Department of Health and Human Services. So we have a little over 1,000 users, which means you can only be a user one time. You can be at the health center 10 times in the past year, but we can only count them as a user once to the state. We have little 2,400 nursing visits, which are from minor injuries to a headache, a stomach ache, to more serious things like strep and flu and that sort of thing. We had 167 medical visits, and 40 of those were telehealth visits. We had 1,961 preventive visits, which include child visits, immunizations, risk assessments, and depression screenings. We had a pretty big increase in our mental health visits. We had 530, and we do see a lot of serious mental health issues in the schools.
And that seems to be growing year after year.
I think so. I know we're only just a little over a month into the school year, but there's been some serious suicide ideations, gestures. So it is a very serious issue, and I think we're very fortunate to have Journey Counseling to provide counseling to our students.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, I think a lot of it is due to demographics, certain, socioeconomic issues. It has a lot to do with family, home, and social issues. We talk to these kids every day, and you would be very surprised at some of the things that they say about things that are going on at home. There's not a lot of stability in a lot of these children's lives, and I know I spoke to a dad this morning, and we have one little fellow who's kind of seen us quite a few times since the beginning of school at West. And his dad was saying, well, his mom and I recently divorced, and, maybe that's what's going on. And I said, we'll keep an eye on him. And because so far his complaints have been legitimate, but, sometimes kids just need somebody to talk to. And so I said, we'll keep an eye on him, and if he keeps coming out here frequently, then we'll probably let him see our counselor out there.
How about bullying? Are you seeing any increase in that?
I don't know if we're seeing any increase, but we still see, kids on a weekly basis who do say they're being bullied. And I think the schools have done a great job. I know that it's a zero tolerance for bullying, but even with that, there's still bullying, there's cyberbullying. The schools can't really control what kids do at home after they get out of school, like on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat. I don't really do all those things, just on Facebook, but so I think there is a lot of bullying.
But let me ask this question. I'm a student, and Johnny Smith is bullying me, and I come and tell you that. Do y'all pass it along to the principal, or what do y'all do?
Yes, we do. We usually walk that child either back to the guidance counselor's office or either to the assistant principal or the principal if one of the others not available. So yeah, we make sure that school personnel knows, because, you know, I mean, we see it, you hear about it on the news on a pretty regular basis where, you know, kids have killed themselves because they're bullied.
Right.
And, you know, we certainly don't want anything like that to happen here in Montgomery County or anywhere. And so, you know, what we can help control, we do if things are happening on school grounds. And if, for instance, a child came and said, you know, I'm getting all these texts, I'm getting Facebook messages that are very demeaning and degrading, you know, then we get parents involved. Because the schools don't really have any control over that. But it is a serious problem, and I think that does contribute some to some of the mental health issues that we see. But a lot of it is family issues and that sort of thing.
You have like the statistics back for 5 years, see the trend and how it's going up. You could went back 5 years and look at that one statistic.
Oh, well, that's probably a lot more than what we saw 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. You can see the
You can
percentages
Yeah, I can
increasing
go back
each year.
and track that and see. But, you know, sometimes our numbers, like the 530 visits, that's between east and west, and also our counselors go to the high school and the elementary schools. I don't think we really have a good way to track necessarily whether it's anxiety or depression, or whether it's social issues or bullying and that sort of thing. So we probably don't really have a good way to track that. I mean, we do have a new electronic medical record system, EPIC, and it's kind of giving us all gray hairs. But I think it'll be a good system, and we can probably, with that system, go back this year and track the diagnosis codes that the counselors use to see, is it, you know, social issues, is it anxiety or depression? But I'll tell you, a lot of it's depression. Nutrition visits, we have 461 nutrition visits. That's combined with our nutrition educator and our dietitian. We have a dietitian 1 day a week. She alternates school health centers. And then Kate Blackmer's our nutrition educator who is there full-time. Staff visits, 501, and probably a vast majority of those were flu shots. And we saw 46 elementary student visits. Last year we did 564 sports physicals, and that does sound like a lot, and it is a pretty big number, but it's about 150 less than we did the year before, and I'm not really sure why, especially now that there's sixth graders playing sports. Because, you know, we try to do all we can to get the kids be able to play sports, but we have, I will say, we have done quite a few since the beginning of school. So I'm not sure why we had less last year, but we'll see kind of how it turns out this year. So all total, we've done a lot of 6,600 visits of all types. Last year, we gave 982 flu shots to students and staff, which I think was really great. We really had an early flu season last year. This time last year, we had already seen quite a few students and staff members in September who had the flu. But there's a little bit of good news, and I know the dark side, you really can't see it good. This is through the end of last week. So far this year, for North Carolina, the activity for flu is sporadic, which is good news. And the other good news is the best time to get a flu shot is before it gets here. Because if you hear somebody say, well, I got a flu shot and I got the flu. Well, they didn't get it from the flu shot. They were exposed to the flu before they got the flu shot, because it takes about 2 weeks to build up your immunity after you get a flu shot. So if you haven't got your flu shot, now's a good time.
And Gina, on the flu shot, y'all are giving the single and the quad, or y'all giving the quad or not?
We give quadrivalent.
Okay. Isn't that what they're suggesting this time? Because there's...
Yes. And, you know, in years past, we've gotten a little bit of the flu mist for like the younger kids, but they don't recommend flu mist. They say it's really not effective. So we only give quadrivalent because we want to give the vaccine that offers the most protection. And I did this slide on Friday, and I didn't have a chance today to get my numbers updated because we gave shots here at the county office Friday and also at early college, and they also gave some at the school-based health center. So I'm sure that number we've given over 300 to date to students and staff, and that doesn't include, we really haven't gotten the high schools yet, but we will be getting to the high schools in the next couple weeks to give those shots.
So Miss Shirley Harris does a good job here. She forces people in this room. So I never did get a flu shot till about 5 years ago. Now she twists my arm and drags me into it.
Awesome, awesome. And I did hear this, when I was here at the county office, I said, well, didn't so-and-so get one last year? Oh, yeah, but they were at this school when we were giving it to the staff and they got it then. So we're glad that we're able to do that. And according to the CDC, the best way to fight the flu is with a flu vaccine. So last year we gave a little over 1,900 doses of vaccines, which was down a little bit, but there's new guidelines from the CDC about the HPV vaccine, which says in the past we've given a series of 3 to boys and girls, and now if you get it if you start the series before you're 13, you only have to have 2. So we're off a little bit there, and this number is going to be higher too. I said year to date, 365 plus. I'm sure that's probably close to 400 now. So BMI for 16 and 17, I only have 2 slides. We have all the BMI combined and in spreadsheets like this, but we could spend all night with that. So I just thought I would add the slide for the Montgomery County schools overall, and this was for students. You know, we always, the school nurses help us get this done, and there's always kids that are absent or have moved. So this is a little over 3,500 students, which is a little less than enrollment for last year. But it's still a huge problem, childhood obesity. And as I don't know if you can read the numbers, but 49% of the students in the Montgomery County schools overall are either overweight or obese. And the majority of those are, according to the BMI, are obese. About 30% are obese, which is a body mass index at the 95th percentile or higher. I know Brenda DeBerry will be happy about this because I always feel bad because we have to say it's not her fault, she has no control, but it's her school. But not this year because she's moved to Star. But East Middle School this year had the highest rate of overweight and obesity. So that's pretty significant that 61% of the students last year at East Middle School were obese or overweight, with about, 26 are in the obese category. So I have a friend here with me tonight. Her name is Isa Granadas, and I think it's appropriate. You know, we have in the past, the foundation has funded programs like the Fit Youth Initiative. We did the Healthy Eating Active Play program in the past, and you know, we're always working. We have the SWEET program for the children who are diabetic. That was foundation funded also. But there's a new program that we're very excited about. I call it the Marches program because I've added the Montgomery. So the next few slides, I'm going to let Isa, since she is directing this program in Montgomery County. So I'm going to let her come up if she doesn't mind and tell you all about the Marches program. And where did those slides go?
Can I ask you one question, Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
This obesity, do y'all talk to the kids, strong talk to them, or just?
Well, no, we have pretty strong talks. You know, our state standards to be credentialed by DHHS say that all children who are 85th percentile or higher, which 85th to 94th, they're considered overweight by body mass index, and 95th and higher is considered obese by body mass index. Those are CDC definitions. So our standards with the state say for students who have a body mass index of 85 percentile or higher, that we have to offer them 2 counseling sessions per year. So, yeah, our nutrition educator, she's great with the kids. They love her. But, yeah, I mean, she really, you know, talks to them seriously. And a lot of times if we do well child visits on these children, We do labs, which tests us for diabetes. We check a fasting blood sugar and a hemoglobin A1C for diabetes. We do a lipid panel, which checks all the levels of cholesterol. And then we do some liver function tests also, because those are things that are recommended that we do. And it's really for children who are in the 95th percentile or higher, it's kind of rare that something doesn't come back a little abnormal. A lot of times it's in the lipid panel. But when that happens, then we refer them to the dietitian. And she even stresses things a little more strongly. And we send information home to the parents, and sometimes they even call the parents. So, yeah, we're working, and the kids seem very receptive to what they're told, and, and we do see, when they come back for their second visit, a lot of times we do see some body mass index decrease. So it's just a problem that's, it didn't happen overnight, and it's just going to take everybody in the community's efforts, and that's why we're so excited about the Arches program. And I don't know what happened to that slide, Ethan. So that, I'm not sure which. That's not the first one though. So I don't know what happened to it. It was there.
That's okay.
So I'll let you talk about it.
Thanks for inviting me. Thank you for having me. So the Arches program is great because it addresses the obesity epidemic, not just in a clinical setting, but a community setting. So it sort of meets, it addresses the barriers that, for example, Gina might have at the health center by providing a community place for the kids. And it's funded by the Duke Endowment, and we decided to give first self-funding for Montgomery County because after the success of the Daily Mile programs that have been at all the elementary schools, and it is a program that actually started in Durham by Duke Children's Hospital, and the idea was started by Dr. Sarah Armstrong, and she's a pediatrician who works in the obesity clinic. And she recognized that in the clinical setting, they didn't have as much effect just counseling the students, that there was a need in the community for a safe, accessible place for families and kids to learn, about how to live a healthy life. And so they partnered with Durham Park and Rec, and they created Bolsick Fit in 2012. And the program provides free access for children who have obesity to provide a safe and inclusive place for playing. And all those kids are in the Duke Children Healthy Lifestyle program and receive counseling. They've won a lot of awards, such as the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Child Obesity Challenge Award for innovative approaches to addressing childhood obesity, and this year the National Park and Recreation Association Award for Health Partnership. And it's gone through randomized control trials, and it's been proven that the partnership, the intervention with the clinic and community was very effective in improving childhood physical activity, waist circumference, and their quality of life versus just a clinical approach. So, let's
see if we can get one of these slides right here. Okay.
Yeah. So,
tell them what Arches stands for.
Yeah. Arches stands for Active Recreation for Community Healthcare Engagement. So, in Montgomery County, it's going to be targeting the 85th percentile BMI, children's 10 to 14, and we're partnering with the school-based health centers, and they will refer those kids to our program. And it's going to be held at the Bisco Community Center. We just visited today, and we found a great building. It's the blue building to the left if you've been there, and that's where we're going to hold the program. It's going to be 2 evenings a week, and one thing that's unique about Arches is that it's a family program. So we know obesity doesn't just start with kids eating unhealthy foods, it's their community, it's their family, what they eat at home. So we're going to have a fitness and nutrition curriculum that is geared towards parents and children, and the siblings of the kids who are in the program can come too. So it's a very inclusive place for the community. And based on the statistics that Gina said, most of the kids at the schools will be eligible for the program. So it'll be a great resource. In addition, The program is free, so it's very accessible, and it's drop-in, so there's no obligation. And since it's drop-in, we have incentives. We're going to have marches money. So every time a kid goes, and a parent, and they participate in physical activity, they'll get a little marches money coupon, and they can get a t-shirt and other goodies. Kate at the school-based health center said someone's going to come once a month and drop off vegetables for the families. So it's a very comprehensive program. Well, a major component of the program is partnerships. So like I mentioned, we partner with the school-based health centers, North Carolina Cooperative Extension, who's going to help us bring in some health educators to talk about nutrition and lead group sessions for parents and kids. In addition, the health department, providers in the community, and we're going to seek volunteers from Montgomery High School to involve the older children in the community to sort of be facilitators in the program because it's important. In the Bull City Fit program in Durham, they have a bunch of Duke students there, and they provide like a lot of energy, and it's a great opportunity for the kids who are interested in health and fitness to give back and get experience. But overall, Marches is great because it is very accessible. It's a free program. It breaks barriers of institutional clinic settings, and actually, this is the first Arches program that's in a rural county. So it's historically been done in urban county or urban areas. So they're kind of letting us take the reins because there's different resources here, and we're so thankful to have found Bisco Community Center. And this is unique because it's a very comprehensive and holistic way to address childhood obesity. Does anyone have any questions about Arches?
How many people are you hoping to show up?
We're hoping for as many as possible. But we're working out strategic things right now, the referral process and all that stuff. But we're making baby steps. We're hoping to start it by November, but we'll see.
Just kind of on the days, what days they're going to be?
Yes, it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Evenings.
Okay.
And we're going to have a kickoff, so we can invite board members if they want to come see the facility.
How long will it last, Chief?
It's going to be an hour and a half.
What time are we going to start?
We're thinking 6 o'clock so that parents can get off work. And the idea is that parents can participate if they want in the program, but we're also going to have an area with fitness machines and other things that parents can do on their own. They can walk around. It's a great program. Okay.
Sounds great.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Issa, and I apologize, I promised you those slides were there. They're on
Oh,
my
it's
handout.
okay. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so in late May, we did have our DHHS annual review, and there were no deficiencies, there were no recommendations. So we're all good with DHHS, and we're in the process of applying for, they give us like 3-year funding, they don't give us, we have to apply for like 3-year funding cycles. So our next funding cycle will begin in June of 2019 for the next 3 years. So we're in the process of working with First Health's grant writer to complete the application. And if I've asked you for a letter of support, I promise you we'll be getting a draft pretty soon. And I appreciate you volunteer or agreeing to provide a letter of support. So we're hoping that that will go well. So the next thing is the First Health school-based dental care. We're expecting construction to be completed by mid-October, which is just 2 weeks away, so we're very excited about that. But then it'll take a couple weeks to get the x-ray and dental equipment installed. So they're targeting November 1st as completion, maybe opening, but surely sometime in early November they will be open for business. So we're really excited about that. We've had parents and students be really excited about that. We have been participating with the National School-Based Health Alliance in their learning community, and that's all across the country, the 10 largest school districts that are providing oral health services in the schools. And so early on, when we met with this School-Based Health Alliance staff, they said that they really did not want us to, or they didn't feel it was a good idea for us to promote this as we're co-locating dental services and school-based health services. They want us to present to the children, the staff, parents, and the community integrated services, so that they all be health services, dental services will be under school-based health services. And so we started last year branding together with the school-based, with the dental care folks, and I'll pass these around. This is our flyer that went out with our packets at the beginning of the school year, so that we could let families know that, we are school-based health services and dental services. Even though we initially planned to be in the same building, that didn't kind of work out. Bill, thank you so much for your help through all this. And
To the ladies.
so we have buildings that are adjacent to the school-based health centers, and I think they look really nice. They're going to be really nice. So that's kind of dark too. You really can't see east at all, but they're similar to the school-based health center buildings. They have the same roof, the same siding, so that we look like we're together. But we're in very close proximity, so that if a child goes to the dental care center and the dentist gets ready to see them, or hygienist starts to clean their teeth, and they'll say, I don't feel good, and they look in their mouth and they see swollen red tonsils with white stuff on them, they say, well, let's go back to the school health center. We think you might need a strep test. Or if we have a child come out there with a toothache and it looks like they might have an abscess, we say, okay, let's go over to the dental center and let the dentist look at it over there. So we're very excited about that. And we're hoping that we'll be able to hopefully do some tele-dentistry, or if the schools get the telehealth grant.
Financially, how does it work? A student has a cavity toothache, they come in there.
Well, the grant that's providing funding to build the dental clinics is the Duke Endowment, and their target is children who have Medicaid, health choice, or who are uninsured. So right now, that will be children that they're able to see, just because of grant guidelines. They can see First Health employees' children because they have emeritus, and that was approved a long time ago. I'm hoping after the grant period is over, I said, if you open this to all dental insurance, you could be busy 5 days a week at both health centers. So it'll be the same. They will bill for Medicaid, and they'll bill health choice. For children who are uninsured, we'll continue to pay with Kids in Crisis funds, so that all children will have access, or all children who are considered economically disadvantaged will have access to dental care. And it'll be preventive services like screenings, cleaning, x-rays, to restorative care like fillings. They may do some extractions. I don't know if they would do that with little kids, but they'll be in contact with the parents before they do anything major. And they'll still have some parents bringing little kids in the morning before exploratory times for the middle schools, and then maybe after school's over. But the goal is to start at the middle schools, and then they'll expand to the high schools and the elementary schools.
It's important to realize that the purpose of this was not to compete with local dentists. The purpose of this was to get kids who are underserved and don't have a dentist. Because
Right.
usually most families who have dental insurance have their family dental provider.
Right.
So this is really focused for those kids that don't have.
Yeah, it's to promote a dental home for those kids who don't have a dentist, or either, just because a child has Medicaid or health choice doesn't mean they can always get to the dentist, because we call parents all the time and won't say, well, I would be glad to come get them and take them to the dentist, but I don't have any money, I don't have any car, I don't have gas money, and that sort of thing. So that takes away those kind of barriers, because they'll be seen during the school day. So it'll definitely really help increase access to care. So let me back up. So I know we're running long, and I apologize for that, but we're going to continue to do what we've been doing to provide quality, comprehensive health and dental services to students and staff. We're going to continue with the learning community for dental health for the next year. We plan to be successfully awarded a 3-year grant funding through the HHS, And then always our goal is to support your mission and vision for the students. So one last thing, I always say this is October 2nd, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So tell the women in your life that you love, ask them if you have an mammogram, or if it's a friend, a neighbor, a cousin, a sister, get your mammograms. So any questions? Thank y'all very much. We could not do what we do without your continued support and the support of all the school staff, the teachers, the principals. We couldn't do what we do without your help and everybody's help. It does take a village to get these kids what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the accountability and test report results for 2016-17 school year. I guess if the entire group can come forward as
Good evening, Chairman DeVere, Vice Chairman Blake, Superintendent Fellows, board members, and other elected officials, friends of Montgomery County Schools. It is my sincere pleasure to stand before you tonight with my colleagues as we provide you with a year review of our 2016-2017 test results. We'll begin with just focusing on the overview of our presentation. At the very bottom and foundation of our model for instructional excellence is our PDSA model and data-driven decisions. And the data that we present to you tonight will actually help drive our decision making for the remainder of this academic school year. A brief overview about our presentation will begin with, I call it accountability alphabet soup, just to make sure we are aware of the acronyms that we will use tonight, as well as unpack those acronyms before we use them. Talk about our growth mindset, the mission and the journey that we've been on the last previous years have actually focused on a growth mindset. We'll also provide you with a brief comparison sample of some neighboring districts, how we compare to some of our neighbors, as well as we'll talk about our economically disadvantaged data, which we've heard over and over tonight, that we definitely have a high need here in the county with regards to economically disadvantaged students and families. Of course, our test results, how do we actually stand this year compared to previous years, an analysis of those results, our celebrations, what are some things we're doing well, what are some things we want to focus on this school year, as well as what does this mean for our work as principals and district leaders. And we'll, of course, conclude with the question, answer, and comment session and the opportunity to provide additional information upon your request. Right now, the presentation you'll see tonight will focus on grade level proficiency, or GLP, which means the state used grade level proficiency for students who have scored a level 3, 4, or 5 on state tests. The actual levels 4 and 5 are considered college and career readiness standards, which the actual state reports to the federal government. But for consistency with the A through F formula that the state currently used for last year's accountability data, we will be presenting in grade level proficiencies for students scoring levels 3, 4, and 5 considered proficient. When you look at the school performance grades, letters A through F, remember that 80% of that grade comes from the achievement score. That's the actual proficiency for our elementary and middle schools. In addition to proficiency for our high schools, the 80% will also include other indicators such as ACT and work keys and graduation rate. When you look at our 20% growth score, that comes from our growth measure on EOG and EOC state tests for both all three grade spans, elementary, middle, and high. Please remember that the grades are actually set on a 15-point scale, letters A through F. Once again, just remember that EOG stands for end of grade, EOC end of course test, which will represent our high school test for high school math 1, English 2, and biology.
Okay, so how did North Carolina fare in 2016 and 17? So if you look at this, public schools had a lower percentage of D's and F's than charter schools, 22 versus 25%. Charter schools had a higher percentage of A's and B's than public schools, 43 versus 35. The North Carolina 2 virtual charter schools actually earned a D performance grade and failed to meet growth benchmarks. So I know that's been in the news a lot, virtual schools. So there's a caveat to the 2 that we had in North Carolina. Schools with greater poverty had more C's, D's, F's than schools with less poverty. And 98% of the schools that received an F had 50% or more poverty. So if you look at this graphic we have at the bottom, if you'll notice that schools that had 50% or more poverty tend to have less A's. That A plus NG means there's no gaps and subgroups, so that's the best you can be. Then you go to A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. So basically the school performance model that North Carolina elected to put into effect several years ago was mimicked after the model that was done in Florida, the A through F grading system. There's been other states that have mulled over whether to use this model or not, because basically all it's showing you is an indicator of poverty. So the F grading system just tells you where your schools of poverty are located throughout your state. So that's basically what this graph is showing you. So schools that had less than 50% poverty, if you look at the number of F's in those districts, you had 2%. Versus schools that had 50% or more poverty, 98% of those schools that received an F are in that nomenclature. So this is some data that you have, and actually that link is live, but some additional data you can, if you have nothing to do on Saturday afternoon, you can click on that link and find data on about any school in the U.S., and it has a breakdown by multiple categories. But again, a lot of research has been done. Over 25 years of research will show that as poverty goes up, proficiency goes down. And that tends to lie within a band. Are there a few outliers? Very few. There's 1 or 2 throughout the entire United States that lie outside that band. So again, just another way to show you the data. And there's, if you see the variance there, it's very little. Schools tend to go towards that average median, either below it or above it. Here's another live link you can go to. It looks at money, race, success, and how your school district compares. And if you look at that top right quadrant, that's the richest school districts in the U.S. Those tend to be located in the northern part of our country, and their per pupil funding ranges anywhere from about $14,000 to about $22,000 per pupil, whereas ours is about $9,100. So money does matter when it comes to poverty. It does help close the gap. There is, on this graph, 6th graders in the richest districts are 4 grade levels ahead of those students in poorest districts. So if you look at the data that's been collected in this chart, it makes that much difference when you have a lack of poverty in your school system. All right, this one, the performance grades for the school system this year. East Montgomery High School had a B, which is a phenomenal place to be for a school that has the diversity and poverty that is in that school. Our C schools, Green Ridge, Page Street, Mount Gilead, Candor, Star, West Montgomery High School, and of course our 2 D schools are our 2 middle schools. If you receive a D and do not, if you met growth and received a D, you're considered a low performing school, even if you met growth. So one of the issues that we've expressed to the state, the 80%, 20% model, we would like to see that 50-50. I don't know if we'll get to that point, but at least a 60-40 split. So, because most of the work that you do in the school is growth. So if 2 of you enter my grade level and one of you's at 50% already and one of you's at 10%, it's harder, it's going to be a lot more work involved in moving that child that's at 10%. So that's where the work's at in growth. So if you look at our district, we do a great job with pushing kids that come to us already low. So we're taking kids that come out of poverty, that aren't exposed at home to things that a person that's of means would have. Especially in summer, we see a slide of almost a 1 to 2 month regression over the summer. So that's why summer programs are so important to keep students in poverty engaged in that summer process learning. And typically those students do not have the money to go outside the county, to venture out to museums and to be exposed to cultural arts and other things that help them pick up vocabulary that does make them successful when they take state tests. So MLA was the alternative accountability model, but actually 80% of our schools met or exceeded growth. If you pull out MLA, which is an alternative school, actually 90%. We have no F schools. And of course, Troy, since it's a K2, doesn't have an accountability assignment. So approximately 80% of our schools earned a C or better.
Jeff, what do you think the probability of that ratio changing as far as the way they consider to put more emphasis on the growth?
Well, with the current General Assembly, slim to none, but my hopes are that people who vote could always change the mix. So, Dr. Ellis had our representative Oxendine down to talk to himself, Dr. Lancaster, and I. We actually had a deep discussion with her over proficiency versus growth. And I think we might actually sway her opinion a little bit on that area. We do want the proficiency there. It does set a high target, a high bar. But we still need to reward those districts that do not have the economic means of others. Tier 1 counties, which there's 40 of them in our state, do not have the economic means of those who aren't Tier 1 counties to be rewarded for the hard work that's done in our classroom. And it is, it's a hit to morale of our teachers.
Yeah.
Because you work a lot harder in an at-risk school than you do a school that has students that walk in with high proficiency. I've been at both schools. There's a lot more work to be done at those at-risk schools, and we're not rewarded for that. We're actually penalized. So, a teacher that works their hind end off in an at-risk school, and the next district over, you got an at-means district, and those teachers work half the time in educating those students because of the means they come with or have at home to help educate that child. It is demoralizing in some respects. So again, we need to pat our teachers on the back. They do a great job of moving these kids from where they come from to, we'd love to see exceeded growth in every school. We had that in Mount Gilead and East Montgomery High School, exceeded growth. That's the best you possibly can do with a child. You've taken them to the highest you can take them in that year in your classroom. So of course we'd like to see every school there. We push that, but we can commend those two schools especially for the hard work they've done. The only two schools I mentioned that didn't meet growth was Montgomery Learning Academy, and that's an alternative school which works under a different model. And we're just happy those kids are in there trying to get an education and graduated so they will be productive members of society. In West Middle, again, we know the situation there. We've replaced that entire leadership team. We have good feelings about what's going on with that school. And we're actually, central office is in that building each week, sitting down with that team to make sure everything's going in the right direction. We have a much better feeling about the direction of West Middle than we have in a while.
Jeff, we have a pretty clear idea why West Middle got a D. Why did East Middle?
East missed going to a C by 1 proficiency point. 1 point. Reading. Reading is what hurts us in poverty. When you're impacted by poverty, reading is one of the hardest things to teach a child. And just to be honest with you, we as educators cannot teach a child to read without support from the community and the home. And if that parent's not reading to that child from birth till the time we get a hold of them, they're so far behind when we get them, even in pre-K. Thank God we do have a good pre-K program, so we're able to capture about 177 kids right now. But there's about 300 in our county each year. So those other kids that we miss, some of those are in Head Start. About 50 of them is what we surmise. And there's about 50 or 60 kids that we sort of miss out on. I don't know if they're private pay at private sites or kids we're just not reaching, but we try to advertise and get all those kids we can into a pre-K program. Because the only way to close that reading gap is to get them as early as possible. But that's what hurt us at East Montgomery, 6th and 8th grade reading. And that's something we're putting a lot of emphasis on.
They were 1 point from being a C.
Yes, and I know that was disappointing to Della because yes.
What were they last year?
They had exceeded growth.
Yeah, they had exceeded growth the previous year. This year.
If they had exceeded growth this year, they would have been a C school. Absolutely. Excellent. All right, I think this is Dr. Green.
This is just a compare from last year. You'll see this is actually 15, 16, and the growth that Dr. James was just speaking of, this just put it into one page. You'll see our EOG scores for our math, followed by reading, as well as our EOC scores for math and reading, followed by science, as well as our ACT scores, which have yet to be put into EBOS for this year. But this is actually last year data. And what you really want to see here for growth is you want to see green and blue. And you want to see more green going to blue as the year go by. So this is, as the optometrist will say, this is picture A, and then we're going to go to picture B and see which is better. So let's go to the next slide. You'll see we're steady moving in the right direction. We still have more green, we have a little more blue, and we have less red, and that's what you want to see. As we look at last year, we see we had a high focus on math, because we know if you go back to the slide before, go to A, Dr. Alicia Ellis, you'll see that we definitely need to focus on math last year. And that's what the team here did. And if you go over to the next slide, you'll see how we fared. When you go back to B, you'll see we came out of red in math and we've moved up in math, but you see what happened to us a little bit in reading at our middle school. So if you look at our greatest opportunities for this year with regards to growth, you'll look at those red areas, which for us now is 6th, 7th grade math, as well as 8th grade science. I'm trying to read that bottom slide step right here, but you'll see overall grade 8 math, math 1 and grade 3 reading, we actually exceeded growth. Okay. Grade 3, 7 math, grade 4, 5, and 8 reading, English 2, grades 5 science and biology, we met growth. And although we don't have the ACT composite yet, we do know that we declined in overall composite by about 1%, which is consistent with the state decline of about 1%. However, when you look at our subgroup data for ACT, we're pleased to report that we increased in our subgroups for ACT performance, which is our UNC measure for making sure students can actually make college entrance exams to get into college, 3 to 8% in several of our subgroups. So much so, Dr. Ellis, Dr. James, and the entire CNI team was invited back to the State Department to actually go present at the State Accountability Conference on October the 9th or 10th? On October the 10th for our work that we're doing here with the ACT PSA task force that Mr. Allman is currently leading. So they know that we're still outperforming the state with regards to overall in those measures, and they still are interested in what we're doing here in Montgomery County Schools to make sure that despite the fact that on average we have about 80% of our students who are considered economically disadvantaged, but we're still making sure that we're producing students who are college and career ready. And the growth is also reflected in the fact that about 80% of our schools are actually meeting or exceeding growth. And one of our 3 schools actually exited low performance status. And of course we know East Middle was, with that 1 percentage point, was very close to being our next school. You want this one up here? Okay. This here is we sit in the room and we talk about school choice, and we talk about the options for our students here in the county. We want to make sure that the community is very aware that overall Montgomery County Schools is still the best choice for our students here in Montgomery County. Although you heard Dr. James speak about how our students enter behind and how we deal with the summer slide, and a lot of our students don't have the opportunities that most children have when the parents are not economically disadvantaged. By the time our students still leave Montgomery County School with a high school diploma, it's still something of value, because you see how our high schools are performing compared to our charter schools here in the county, or the charter schools that our students in the county may elect to go to. If you look at the last 3-year trend here, you'll see that East Montgomery has exceeded growth for the consecutive 3 years. You'll see West Montgomery, although they didn't meet growth in 14-15 under the leadership of Mr. Brown, they've continued to exceed and or meet growth for the past 2 years. While if you look at Greystone and Aurora Charter, those schools have not met growth in the past 2 years, but yet you see they're A school, which means they have the proficiency. But for those kids that have high proficiency, what this data is telling us is those kids are either maintaining or regressing when they enter into, actually they're regressing, because the maintaining would be actually meet if you can able to keep them within 1 year. So these students are likely to be regressing where our kids are actually growing. So this is just I want to just highlight that Montgomery County School is still a great choice and the best choice for Montgomery County residents. And this is just to highlight the economically disadvantaged data. I mean, that's a data point that we're not so proud of, but at the end of the day, we should be proud of, because despite the fact that you'll see here that this past year, when last school year before last, 15-16, because 16-17 economically disadvantaged data has yet to be finalized, but it's actually 78%. And the truth of the matter is probably a lot higher. What we're learning is that when students get to high school, they're more reluctant to turn in a free and reduced lunch application, which means they may still qualify, but we can't count them without the application. So while right here you see we're about 80% free reduced lunch, we're probably a lot higher when you look at the population that we're serving in our schools.
Why did Anson and Blake, I mean, they were right up there with us, and then they dropped way down?
A lot of that too will sometimes go to reporting, and I do know Anson County, a lot of the, some people are leaving. I mean, if you look at Dr. James, I was at a presentation just this week, and they was talking about different counties, and they was calling counties that they're calling that are dying out literally because the population is not being replaced. And some of that too is just going to go to reporting. I mean, your data too is only going to be as good as your reporting.
Right.
So I'll come back, we'll circle back to that when you see a couple more slides too. I think I've already shared some of that data with Mr. Alma, who was looking at some of the counties and was looking at some of the numbers and trying to look at some of our comparison counties for growth. And Anson County was also another county we looked at. And this is just another data point. When you look at some of their gains this year, it was a red flag to us. I went and looked at our participation rate, because the federal participation rate is we're held accountable for 95% of our students for all of our subgroups and all of our state tests. And if we don't, of course, we send out a nice letter notifying our parents that we did not meet our participation rate. And you would look at some of their participation rates, they was also down by about 90%. So we're testing in some of our categories 100% of our students and 98%, and for the most part 95%. And you'll see on average they're testing about 90% of their kids. Of course, this is our comparison sample, Anson, Blake, Montgomery, Moore, Randolph, Richmond, Stanley, and of course, Wood State. So the charts that you will see from this point forward will show you the last 4 years of data for these counties, as well as how does Montgomery fare. And even now, when you look at Montgomery, within this comparison sample, we're still the highest for poverty. And even with that challenge against us, we're still outperforming some of these districts overall in different categories. So that's something I think that we should be proud of. We have not let poverty become an excuse for not still providing our children with a quality education.
So this slide shows third grade reading, and you can see the state average remained constant. We increased by 1.6 points. 4 out of our 5 schools exceeded growth in third grade reading, with their growth index being quite high. This slide shows fourth grade reading.
Well, you can go back to third grade reading just a minute. In 3 years, we stayed at 49.2%.
Yes, sir.
Actually had a decrease in
Yeah, I thought we had a decrease the year before. I mean, is there a reason for that? Are we just spinning our wheels, or because there's no improvement?
So third grade reading, their growth.
Then there's no improvement in the whole North Carolina thing either there.
I think we exceeded growth.
So we exceeded growth in third grade reading, which means we went over the bar for growth in third grade reading.
Every year?
This year, we did.
Okay.
This year.
I mean, because what I'm looking at in a 3-year time frame, we stayed at 49.2. Now, did they change the standard? I mean, because we went through all this with the Read at 3 or whatever the state.
Read to achieve.
Yeah, Read to Achieve. And unless I'm misreading the data, that doesn't show me that that's.
And that, it's part of our discussion when Olivia Oxendine came from the state board. They're still arguing about the reading standards. We talked about how much better we did in math this past year. That's one of our frustrations is the reading, because in a lot of ways it does feel like it's been years.
Right. Well, I mean, look, the state's actually changed.
Regress.
Yeah, that's what that's my question.
That's the concern, is that the standard, that the test that you're taking ain't exactly aligned to the standards you're having to teach.
Right.
But no, that's very protective, because that's a statewide argument that's going on. And you'll see it in 4th and 5th grade as well.
Right.
But if you'll notice that slide, Mr. Dozier, North Carolina has dropped every year.
Yeah, that's what I was pointing out, that we dropped a couple, North Carolina dropped a couple of points, and I just wonder why.
But you see some of the surrounding systems have actually increased. over a 3-year period. So that's what's troubling to me. And I know the economics and all are different.
And looking at the cohort data where they came in from third grade, with 4 out of the 5 schools exceeding growth, I mean, they made great gains in third grade.
I think I have a little problem understanding that we're continuously exceeding growth, but our score, we're still maintaining this across the board, the same level.
I think that's hard to wrap your head around.
Sort of, yeah, I
It-
have the same problem.
It is very much so.
But, you know, the kids, when they come in, they're not prepared, they're not ready for school, and we keep growing them more and more every year, but, and getting closer and closer to the proficiency mark. But, you know, exceeding growth, you can't ask for more than that to get closer to the growth mark.
I see 4th grade reading, there's
There's a dip there.
yeah, and the state went up and so did we. 5th grade reading, state went up quite a bit. We went up almost 2 points.
So 4th grade reading, all the schools met their growth targets in 4th grade reading.
Did any of the schools exceed?
Hold on just a second. No, all schools met growth.
They
in
all
4th grade.
met.
Yes. And one thing we're doing different from this year, we've changed scheduling at certain schools. We found their data to be rather flat, and they were block scheduling. And because of the numbers of teachers blocking together, they really weren't getting the instructional time they needed. They didn't have time to integrate. So those schools, we made some changes in scheduling. We also provided reading foundations training last year for all the teachers. And this year, we're going to making sure we have fidelity to that training.
Do we have, and Jeff may have alluded to it earlier, sorry, that math's extremely important. I agree with that. But as far as test scores are concerned, reading, my guess would be, reading will affect,
Yes.
proficiency in reading will help you on test scores more than any other factor.
Absolutely, because most math, as the upper grade levels, are word problems.
Right, right. So my question is, and you may have alluded to it earlier, is there a point or a point in time in a kid's life where we can help him get caught up before he gets to this, he or she get caught up? I mean, do you see the, I think you
After
mentioned
third
earlier, the
grade,
problem
it's
is when we
after
get-
third grade, it's almost impossible.
Universal pre-K, every 4-year-old in the state of
Yes.
North Carolina in pre-K.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do is collect data to find performance versus kids who come through NC pre-K versus those who don't.
Right.
And the state has been collecting some of that, and I think there's going to be some alarming results once we present that. And that's one of the things, an argument for universal pre-K. We'd love to have every kid come through a pre-K program where there's some academic structure.
Okay, well, you know, that's nothing we have control over. But as far as stuff we have control over, I know with the Winston-Salem thing, one of the sessions I went to was with one of the state board guys who was from Winston-Salem, and I can see his face, I don't remember his name. But I mentioned to him about the fact that almost every study I've ever seen said that the number one determinator on whether kids are successful or not in school is parental involvement. In reading,
absolutely.
Parental involvement. And with a lot of our kids being poor and disadvantaged, I'm sure a very large percentage of those parents are single parent families.
About 85% of those homes.
And I was talking to him about this, and he said, are you getting help from outside, from within the community, from outside the school system? Talking about Rotary Club, talking about churches coming in and reading the kids and things like that. I know we've been hit and miss with this in the past. Is that something that we could do in kindergarten? I mean, is that where it needs to start?
Absolutely.
In kindergarten,
Pre-K.
first grade, because you
We
said
can
by
bring
the time
in pre-K
third
to
grade.
read. And actually, pre-K has a national reading week where we invite the community in. So it's a huge push to get them in. But with our Lions Club, Rotary Club, and I know the Rotary Club definitely was set up with Troy Elementary and coming in each week and reading to the kids. And
I think it can't just be 1 week. It's got to be something done on a
weekly basis, yeah.
On an ongoing basis.
And we definitely can reach out to our faith-based organizations and see if we can tap into those.
You got a lot of retired folks, and even the senior citizens
Yes.
right down here.
Might be a good idea to do like the bus garage and put a bus up with a sign, want to read to a kid, contact us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, because there's a lot of retirees that we definitely help. We just need to reach out to them, absolutely. And I guess one thing Deidre didn't mention, but again, where those kids are at in third grade depends on where they're at K through 2. So if the kids, our kids are lower proficiency wise, that also impacts our gains. But again, we only get credit for about 20% growth, 80% proficiency, so that hurts our numbers too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if we can get them in there.
Yes, absolutely.
And one thing we're doing differently in K2 this year, we've implemented a program called Ready Gen. Our Lettered Land program's done a phenomenal job of helping the teachers close the gaps in foundational skills, but Ready Gen will help with the comprehension. And if we can get the kids learning to read very fluently before they get to third grade, then those third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers can comprehend, work more on that comprehension.
Are all schools doing it?
Yes, sir.
Well, you remember Letterland, one of their biggest gaps in 6th through 8th grade is the lack of phonemic awareness, vocabulary, of course, and high frequency words, and all that is involved in DIBELS, the DIBELS part of Read to Achieve. And of course, Letterland, we went from 30 percentiles up to 65 to 70%. So much so, Deidre actually got a call from Amplify, the company that does our testing, wanting to come and talk to Candor about the significant improvements we made in those areas. So we've got some good practices in place. It's just closing that TRC. Text reading comprehension is one of the hardest things when it comes to reading. But the phonemic awareness, we feel like we've tagged it. But the program's multi-sensory. So if you walk into a classroom, the kids are using every one of their senses. You saw the presentation tonight with science. The reason science sticks so well, hands-on and engagement. And you said it yourself, Mr. Dozier. You can get those kids engaged in an activity, visual, kinesthetic, auditory, and get those kids moving, touching, feeling. It's a much better way to learn than just listening to someone talk.
With Letterland,
I would like to add, character begins at home and then spreads abroad. Always remember that. And the multi-sensory approach is very good if you use it, you know how to use it well.
so with Letterland, we worked a lot with Fidelity, and once we got Fidelity in the program, was when we saw our scores increase. So we're going to be working on that Ready Gen Fidelity in K2. So with our 5th grade reading, we had 4 out of the 5 schools met their expected growth. We had 1 school that did not. We rearranged their schedule where they're not blocking.
Which school was that?
Greenridge.
Greenridge.
We have 1 school that's getting some targeted reading PD right now that had our lowest proficiency.
So on this slide, we're looking at grade 6 reading, and if you look at our 4-year trend, we've trended up 1.1 points. The state has also trended up greater than we have, but this is a transitional year from elementary to middle school. So 7th grade reading,
We showed a 3.3%, or 3.3 point growth over last year, and the state actually declined by 0.3 points. And if you look at our 4-year trend, we are trending up by 3.4 points.
You know, in the 4 previous years, going back and looking at this, up to the 7th grade, from the year before, the data from the year before is higher than this year, from 6th, 5th, 4th, and 3rd. And 7th grade is the only year that we actually increased from the year before, based on these charts that you've shown.
So you're talking about cohort data.
I guess. I mean, all I'm talking about is if I'm looking at 2015 compared to 2016, 2015, 2016 compared to 2016, 2017, in 6th grade, we went down. 5th grade, we went down. 4th grade, we went down. 3rd grade, we went up. So 3 of the 4 years previous to that, we actually went down till we get to the 7th grade, and then we showed an increase from the year before.
Yes, 7th and 8th. He's not talking about cohort, he's talking about
the
grade
trend.
level.
Yeah.
Right, grade level positions. Do we know why? Or do we have a guess why?
We'll go back and look at the teachers. Particularly, that's one thing, and I don't sit up here and try to make an excuse about something.
Well, no, I'm not. I'm just trying to find reasons for it. Yeah.
To me, one of the biggest issues that we face when you look across these 3 or 4 years is the loss of teachers. I mean, as we continue to lose teachers and lose teachers and lose teachers to retirement and the musical chairs that you see around the state. I mean, it's hurt us, and each year it gets harder and harder and harder, and it's going to be harder to maintain whatever gains you can get in K-6 because it's getting harder to find those teachers. I could have come in here 10 years ago and told you that we had trouble finding an elementary teacher. You'd have laughed at me. That's where we are, as a state. But I would just about guarantee you that when you go back and you look at that year-to-year data, there has been some type of turnover in a staff that's negatively impacts student learning.
I was actually
there'll be those few cases too where there's been a turnover in staff that's greatly
Increased
student learning as well.
Yeah.
So,
Both schools just meet growth
for
8th grade or 7th grade reading.
For 6th and 7th grade reading, both schools did not meet growth.
But yet, proficiency-wise, there was an increase. That's what's surprising to me.
From one year to the next, not the cohort.
Yeah.
I've got a question about. I'm starting with. I've got 8th grade reading. Go ahead. There we go. My question is, and it's not just us, it's the state too. Why is the proficiency level, it seems that percentage is lower than the other grade levels? 7th, percentage-wise. Why? What do we know why that is?
It's the test.
It's the test.
The test is harder?
It's not aligned.
It's not
It's not aligned to what we
The
teach.
test is, I'm sorry. There have been conversations at state level for years regarding grade 8 reading EOG, and there have been some anecdotal data that the test is not aligned to the standards, and there's continuing conversations about revisiting that test as we stand here tonight.
Because that's our lowest, of all of it, that's our lowest one right there, and the state's too for that.
How many years does it take for them to wake up and change it?
They have to want to change it. They don't recognize there's a problem. The tests for EOGs and EOCs are made in a room at the Friday Institute by people paid for by North Carolina State University. And that's maybe you're a state fans. So we pay them a lot of money to devise a test that there is no curriculum for.
I just wanted to be Chapel Hill, but I guess
But if you do look at the 8th grade reading data, we actually have increased by 4.7 points over the past 2 years. And the state has only gained by 0.3 points.
y'all send them mine? Y'all put in charge of that.
So third grade math was one area that we noted for improvement at the end of 2015-2016 year. And you can see that since last year we increased 4.1 points. There is no growth measure for third grade math. However, if you look at their already scores at the end of second grade to the end of third grade, there was like a increase from 32% to the 51.7%. This is an interesting one. The fourth grade math, the state took a great decrease this time. All schools met expected growth with one school exceeding growth in fourth grade math.
Which school exceeded growth?
Mount Gilead.
Mount Gilead.
In fifth grade math, we increased 5 points from last year. We had 2 schools that exceeded growth. That was Candor and Mount Gilead.
Last year looks like it was a bad year across the board for math compared to the year before. It doesn't. Yeah.
That's what Mr. Rivera was saying. It's like we put all of our focus on math as we look at, the last year. We grew significantly. And I really think Deidre is right when you talk about that reading gym. That's what we keep hearing. We don't have a core reading curriculum. We don't have a core reading curriculum. And that's ultimately what reading is.
So that was a legit.
That was a legit complaint, yes. So I definitely think you will see the reading, get better. And that's what I tell teachers all the time. We've got to be ambidextrous. We did better in math this year because we're focusing on reading this year. We don't want math to go down at the expense of reading.
But it does look like they've done a great job in math. I mean,
It really does.
what I try to look at is from 4 years, from one to next, but also how much we've improved over 4 years. When you look at sixth grade math, the differential between the state and us went from 7 points to 5 points, less than 5 points. So we cut into what the state average, which I think shows significant improvement.
Yes, on sixth grade math, we've shown almost a 9-point growth over the 4 year, and we showed a 7.4-point growth over last year. So that is pretty significant.
In seventh grade math, they blew it out of the water.
Yeah, seventh grade math, we showed a 9.2.
The whole state must have done something different, because that's a 15-point improvement for the state, and we improved 23 points.
23, yes, sir. So looking at eighth grade math, again, we're trending. We have a 4-year trend up from 30.7 in 13-14 to 39 at 16-17, where the state has only shown a 3.6-point growth. We've shown 8.3.
Yeah, that's really.
Grade 5 science. We had 2 schools that exceeded growth, Mount Gilead and Green Ridge. We've added the STEM Scopes program, which is a science program for 3-5 this year. Green Ridge last year exceeded growth, and they went up 7.5 points. And one of the things they did was participate in Muddy Sneakers, which is a program that does field trips, and they talk about vocabulary and do science experiments. And so this year we've added Page, Street, and Candor to that mix for Muddy Sneakers.
And so this slide, we have grade 8 science. And if you notice, the state dropped by 3.8 points and we did drop significantly more. We dropped from 68.5 down to 61. But I did pull the cohort data for 8th grade science, and we actually have shown the last time these students took the science test was in 5th grade. So we've actually shown a overall 9-point growth from 5th grade to their 8th grade science test with this cohort group. Same students, yes, sir.
But the 8th grade is the only one that there's not an improvement from 4 years ago to now. Because 5th and 7th, there was an improvement.
True.
Not a big drop, but still, when you're looking to go up instead of down.
So this slide is Math 1, and this is one of the proficiency measures at the high school level. And as you see, we have a trend upwards of 10.3 points from the previous school year. And the state only jumped 3.8 points. So
Math 1 is that freshman or sophomore year?
It's freshman year.
Yeah. I tell you, look what Richmond County did in 4 years. I wasn't paying attention to what they did in Lee, but they doubled it, almost doubled it in 4 years.
They got a Golden Leaf grant, and they're partnering with their community college to do some stuff. Actually, Mark talked to me about that, and I've still I got to call into them to talk with them to see what they're doing. But it was an influx of a large amount of grant dollars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark will be happy to take this money and we can do that.
Yes.
So the next slide is English 2, and we've actually shown a drop, even though we did meet growth. So where the students were coming in, we actually did grow them from point A to point B, but we did actually show a 4.8 percentage proficiency drop over last year, where the state actually did increase.
To me, this ties into the reading part of it.
It does.
Have we got ideas about why there's such a drop in the 4-year period?
I don't.
This cohort, I don't know if you looked at cohort data, but I do know that I was over at West High quite a bit. I do know that Katie is one of our better English 2 teachers, and she said one of the groups of students she had this year was probably the most challenging she's had in 7 years. I just happened to walk in on that class one day and got the deer in the headlight look. It was a rambunctious class while I was there, but most of them were actually repeating English 2 because they had failed. So the cohort data would probably show that these students weren't getting it. So we just got hit really hard with one class.
Jeff, back up a minute. Rambunctious class, is that what you're terming?
Yes.
Rambunctious.
Yes. They were not willing participants in the education process.
Because she is a good teacher.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I talked to her for about 10 minutes to ensure that I wasn't there to come running back and tell Dr. Ellis. I didn't tell him nice, nobody tell him. Yeah. Rodney's recording it. Oh, Don, I'll get the tape.
So the next slide is biology, and the state did increase by 0.6 points, and we fell fairly significantly. But again, we did meet growth. So where the students were coming in, we actually did get them to grow in their content knowledge in biology.
Jeff, do we know what Moore County's doing? Because they had almost an 18% increase from the year before.
Full-time science specialist. They have a full-time science specialist.
Dr. Grant says they have a full-time science specialist, so they've invested in that since they have the economic.
They have a STEM grant.
STEM grant, so they've also part of the STEM grant that's out there. They're a full-time science specialist. Now, that helps because they can focus specifically on that. But I will say with biology, since we're so small, you basically have 4 teachers that teach biology, so you can have one teacher that doesn't do so good, and that's our scores. And I will tell you that we probably have one that isn't the strongest, and I won't mention names, but
Our
did not
proficiency-
do very well this this past year with that group.
What happens, and I think I know the answer, but I still hear it. What happens when we get to the new high school?
We would hope that we would select the best biology teachers we have, and we actually have some that knock it out of the park.
That's what
But you can have 3 that knock it out of the park and 1 that can't get off the bench, and you're not doing too good in the ballgame. Or if you put me in left field, you're gonna lose.
That is,
Yes.
Our proficiency ranges from our teachers. We had one teacher that was at 80%, and we had another one that was as low as 30.
So that
So
30,
kinda-
that 30 put us where we're at.
Which school was the 30?
West.
West Montgomery.
Yes.
I mean, that is going to be one of the advantages. We're going to take hopefully we're going to take the best of the best.
Yes, absolutely.
That results in not experience
Result.
longevity.
Now, I didn't understand this next one, math course rigor.
Basically, what this slide states is that we met the state requirement of testing 95% of all of our students.
Okay.
So every system did.
Yes.
That's a requirement.
And it's a requirement of the state, yes.
Wait a minute.
Yes, go ahead.
The math course riggers are students who actually graduate from high school and they've taken a third level of course of math or higher. So for graduation probably they have to take a math 3 or higher. So that's why we have the 95%. So across the board, most high school graduates meet that requirement.
So the next slide is our 4-year cohort graduation rate. And as you can see, we have steadily increased over the years, and we were at 89.9%. So we lead the state, or not lead the state, but we are above the state average by 3.4%. And in the comparison, the only county that beats us is Moore in the graduation rate.
We're not at the top, but we're still climbing.
We're still climbing.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
The ACT, is this scores or is this participation? What is this?
This is, I'm sorry.
That's percentage that meets career and college.
Yes, this is the percentage that meets the college and career readiness mark set by the state
So 46%
Of our students.
of our students.
That took it.
Well, they all have
No,
to take
that's of the students that took it, 46.2% are college and career ready.
They all have to take it, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's required.
Yes, sir.
Do we know why that went down 3 points in 4 years?
I'm not exactly sure why it has went down, but we have been invited to speak on the work that we're doing. We actually met last week and reviewed the ACT PDSA, and we have developed some strategies that we're going to try this year to try to bring our average up. We did drop by 0.9 points, and the state did drop by 1.1. But as Dr. LeGrand stated earlier, if you look at our subgroups, we've actually shown some significant gains in our subgroup data.
Subgroup, you're talking about ethnic groups?
Yes, ethnic, socioeconomic, different subgroups throughout, yeah.
Are we doing anything as far as, I know I've asked friends of mine that live different places and kids go to school, and they say that for like the ACT, they meet one afternoon a week right after school for an hour for math. And then maybe another afternoon for English or whatever else is on ACT.
What we've been doing is we've been using an online curriculum to prepare students for the ACT.
Doesn't appear to be working.
The participation hasn't been where we want it to be, but we are currently in the process. Sorry.
This is one of the conversations.
Yes. So we're still talking about different strategies to implement. One strategy we're going to do is we're going to buy some ACT prep textbooks to give to the teaching staff at both high schools for them to embed some ACT stuff into their regular instruction, and also to we were doing it, one day a week is what we were discussing with the principals. We're discussing a 1 day a week, either during Warrior Breakfast or during the Smart Lunch sessions, of having ACT prep coming out of those textbooks, so the teachers will have something to work with the students on to prepare them for the test.
Let me ask this question. Last time I saw an ACC prep book, it was about that thick. Am I correct in that?
Some of them are, yes.
Some of them are.
How many of our teachers are going to read I mean, I don't think I would. How many of them going to read something that thick? Are there seminars or something like that we can send our teachers to?
Dr. LeGrand actually has a friend who we've been communicating with, and she has actually graciously offered to come work with our students, a grouping of our students. We said, what, about 50 at each site?
Yes.
So she's willing to come free of charge, one day at West, one day at East, to work on ACT strategies and basically prep them for the test. So we're in the process of setting up dates. I was actually out of the office today in meetings in Raleigh, so tomorrow I'm going to communicate with the high school principals to go ahead and get those dates set up so that we can get on her calendar for her to come down and do that prep work with our students.
Because the Warrior Breakfast and the Smart Lunch at East would be, it sure would. Maybe more than once a week.
That would be a great time to do it.
Well,
When's ACT? In March? When is that?
March. Well, working with the two principals, and I know Mr. Brown talked to me the other day, trying to proceed with some of those books. What they're going to do is a cross curriculum. So all the teachers in 11th grade will be teaching strategies. That's why they wanted some support materials for the social studies teacher that definitely can teach ELA strategies that are on the test. So he's going to embed it in each classroom. So they'll be getting some ACT supports in every classroom they go to. But he just needed some material for that teacher to reference. And so, yes, we've shunned away from some of those heavier books. There's some smaller ones out there.
Well, I mean, to me, it would be overwhelming.
Right. They have
to
like,
hand me something this big.
Right. Some of them have like 6 tests in them, pre-test or experimental tests that you can take. You don't need all that. So we just need the teaching strategies. And, you know, some kids, you need to know if you need to bubble in every answer. If you start running out of time, those test strategies really make a difference in the scores. So making sure that we're getting those taught. So yes, we're definitely working on that.
The next slide is work keys. And if you notice, we did drop in our work keys test scores. The thing about work keys that not every student takes work keys. It is for the senior class, but in order to take the work keys test, you must be a CTE concentrator. And what that stands for is a student has to take an introductory CTE course. Then they must take a level 1 and a level 2 course. And then they have to take what's called an enhancement course. So not every senior will become a concentrator, and for various reasons. CCP courses, students that are focusing on trying to earn college credits, they don't have as much leeway in their schedule to add CTE courses. So there's a lot of moving parts as to why our work keys kind of varies.
So, and I ought to know this, and I apologize for not knowing it, but work keys are basically for those kids that are going into the job market,
Into
not
the
going to
workforce.
college.
It actually is it's an industry credential that basically states that they are ready to go to work, yes.
Well, but over the 4-year period, you went up 7 points, so I think that's
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good increase compared to the state. Actually, only went up 2 points.
Yes, and we're still exceeding the state level, yes.
Yeah, I think that's
Typically, we've done pretty well with work keys.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm here for the recap. We're just going to review. So what does the data tell us? So when we're looking at that data, sometimes as we started with elementary and then transition to middle and then in with high school, you know, our students come in sometimes at lower levels. We have that cohort of students, but we're able to grow them. Over time, by the time they graduate from Montgomery County schools, they've made significant growth. And we feel like we are definitely the best choice in Montgomery County, the public school system here. So just again, a recap of some of the things that we highlighted this year. We exceeded growth in grade 8 math, math 1, grade 3 reading, and grade 4 reading. We met growth you know, that was that green section you saw on the slide for grades 4, 5, and 6 math, grades 5 and 7 reading, English 2, grade 5 science, and biology. So we were able to keep them in the green, kind of maintain. As we mentioned, the cohort graduation is up. It's on that upward trend. It has been consecutive years. We've met our math course rigor rate. We've outperformed economic affinity counties, those having that similar economically disadvantaged percentage. We've outperformed them on the ACT and the work keys, these are national tests. You know, we talked a little bit about, kind of joked about the North Carolina test and some misalignment there, but these are national tests that we're using, and we are able to outperform similar counties. And as you remember, our schools receive their banners for meeting or exceeding that growth, and again, those are all mentioned there with Mount Gilead and East Montgomery actually exceeding growth. And that's definitely what we want to see. So we just wanted to talk to you a little bit about, give you this bird's eye view of our continuous improvement model. Of course, at the district level, we have the strategic plan that works through the Board of Education and also the central office, as well as within the schools. We have a diversity and inclusion plan here at the central office. We have the department improvement plans, and then for your review, we have the school improvement plans that really gets to the meat of how are you going to improve. So if you, if you were in elementary school and here are your scores from last year, what are the steps that you're going to take at your school? Because that's really where the rubber meets the road at that school level. At the school level, they have goal teams for ELA and math. They're supposed to be digging into the data for those content areas. We have professional learning communities that are required meetings for our teachers. And we continue to emphasize the importance of lesson planning at the classroom level and having our instructional coaches go and participate in those grade level planning sessions as well as the professional learning communities. And then we also have something that we've been working with our schools with multi-tiered systems of support, the MCS process, which is wrapping a layer of support around all of our students and making sure they have their needs met. So again, that's like the bird's eye view of how we do the work of the school system.
Overall, do we feel that our schools are doing a better job of digging into the data and using that to help them formulate their improvement plans than what we've done in the past?
Definitely.
Absolutely. We actually set aside 2 days this year, sort of made it optional. We're thinking about not making it optional next year, but actually invited schools in to sit down with us to help them write their school improvement plan so we can drive down instruction to data. Get the two to meet. And actually what we're doing now this year with classroom walkthroughs is we're actually, continuous improvement takes time, but now we're down to the point where we really need to focus on standards and lesson plans. So what we're seeing as a team and what we're helping principals with and leadership in the buildings is able to take those standards and get them enunciated into a lesson plan that can be taught to kids. So we talked today, done some walkthroughs at West Middle today, and come back and talk to the team, gave the leadership team there some feedback on how they could drive those down even further and make them more impactful. So we continuously just drive down to the data and improvement per child. So seen a lot of good things. I think with Dr. Ellis' leadership, you've seen us over time with continuous improvement make some great inroads with helping students here, even with the impact of poverty.
Jeff, do we have access to data on schools, maybe not necessarily just in North Carolina, that are economically disadvantaged like we are?
Absolutely.
But are making B's. I mean, we got one school, 2 schools that made a B, one school, I guess, that are making B's, and maybe some of the strategies that they are using.
We actually did some visits. Middle schools actually went out and visited several schools. Avid, Alicia's our district director for Avid, and Avid provides us a world of resources and other schools that are doing great things. So that whole networking community celebrates schools that are doing great things. And actually, I think, did you go with them, Alicia? I know we've had a couple visits that Della has went on and Wes.
We've visited some school districts and gone
I mean, it's not going to do you good to go to Myers Park.
Right.
But to go somewhere similar economic situation that we are, that are, in spite of the handicap that they have, are able to have a high percentage of their schools be.
Right. We're also participating, I don't know if it's because Dr. Ellis doesn't like me and wants me to stay away from the central office, but he sends me to a Future Focus network with Jim Daggett. If you Google Jim Daggett tonight, he's the guru across the U.S. U.S. Department of Ed has commissioned his organization to do a study of these schools that are the highest performing, that have seen the largest amount of growth, and they're looking at schools that are 50% plus in poverty. So he has got a whole body of work that he's been doing for about 5 years, and he's sharing that out with us. There's about 4 meetings, and I shared with the team when I come back the other day, and Dr. Ellis, his presentation, but talking about what makes those schools close the gap more so. Why are they at that outlier? There's just a few of them, but those schools, he has brought back several things. And of course, the thing that he drove home the other day is culture trumps strategy. So you got to change the culture into we can instead of these kids can't. So the first thing that we've been about doing, of course, Dr. LeGrand is going to be in charge of that diversity and equity work, is working with our principals to see, even if we have this poverty, the kids are coming to us not prepared, we still can close that gap. We still can rise up above that band and be one of those top performers. But if you look at that one graph I gave you, and you find Montgomery County schools, it's got an average, and then it's got a grade above. If you'll look at that, we're almost at average, which means you're getting a good bang for your buck. We'd like to be above that line. And again, the difference in those schools that are way up there at the top are the New England schools and schools up north. I mean, money makes a difference. If we could hire a reading specialist that done nothing more than work with our K through 5 reading, then we definitely could impact that. But it all comes down to budget, and right now we're just trying to fill classrooms.
And like I say, I'm not trying to compare it to.
But absolutely, we're forward. Absolutely, we're always out there scanning the horizon. And I would actually, the board members, you're more than welcome to go. I would say that all of you need at some point join us at Avid. If there's not a life-changing event with what possibilities are with children in your life, you need to visit one of those and hear some of the stories that are shared on a national level about what can be accomplished with our kids. It's just astounding. So we're doing some great work. And
Dr. James shared with me that research from Daggett last Friday afternoon, and I didn't spend my weekend looking at it like I should have. But we'll definitely take a look at that. And if there's a field trip that we can maybe take our diversity and equity committee to.
Didn't know you were going to be tested on that today.
To a school. I didn't know that was going to come up. But if there's a school within 150 miles of here that we can go to, we'll definitely do that. We're willing to try or do anything to help a kid.
Any other questions? Thank y'all so much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to Roman numeral 5, Dr. Ellis, groundbreaking ceremony.
Gave you 3 possible dates: Friday, October 13th, Wednesday, October 18th, and Tuesday, October 24th. We'd like to do an official groundbreaking ceremony. We're going to make it kind of a drop-in thing and do like the groundbreaking ceremony from like 9 to 9:15, 9:20, and then have a reception at the community college. We've talked to Dr. Bledsoe and his staff, and everybody's on board with that. That's where we'll stand out there with the golden shovels. We'll make this one-time event. We're going to invite dignitaries from the county and do it all here on the front end of the work. You get into insurance issues if you wait until January. We'd also talked about waiting or February when the actual construction started, but then you get into insurance issues and who can be on the site, who can't be on the site, that kind of thing. But I recommend approval of one of these 3 dates.
I'll tell you. You need a,
Not a Friday.
I'd rather do Tuesday.
Let's look at Tuesday.
All right.
Tuesday, the 24th.
Is there one?
Send out a reminder on that.
We'll take it from there. That's all we need.
Need a motion.
Need a motion.
So move.
Second.
Second.
On Tuesday, October the 24th is the day. All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Still gonna push out a plate off on
We're gonna take care of that.
All right.
Jay Niederhopper's gonna clean out a square spot.
The next item is the CT building renderings.
We had a question for this. Could we get some, what that building's gonna look like? We didn't get a look into a classroom because they're still working on what the equipment is gonna look like. But there's what that red and that navy blue looks like in the office there at the Early College / CTE Center. And you'll notice that's kind of the office area. And then there was one showing you how the it's just going to be block walls. You're going to have those high bay classroom areas that Mr. Matheny and Mr. Woodard and the county commissioners and the economic development phase folks can walk on and kind of look over into the classrooms. But they're still working on the equipment and the layouts of the rooms, and that's why you don't see a specific rendering of that. But that just kind of shows you what the colors look like. After that, is there any
They'll be
questions you
bringing
might
some
have?
more drawings as we get further along.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Any questions? If not, moving on to Roman numeral 6, superintendent's remarks.
I've talked enough tonight.
All right.
I'd like to kick you on the table there. Extra goddamn.
You know, if you don't have anything else, then we need a motion to convene in closed session
So moved.
for discussing personnel. Motion, Mr. Dozier, second. Mr. Blake, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.